Today's video is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies located in Melbourne, Florida. Check out their Facebook Live auctions on great deals. Also our friends at Expert Grading Service EGS, now introducing new slabs to go along with custom labels. Only EGS offers great value. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename NECA Elvira 2. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu RU. I'm still getting used to having short hair. I have to keep telling myself that I donated for a good cause. Also, I wanted to apologize if the audio was a little weird. I seem to have misplaced my microphone. Now, every husband can attest that when we can't find our shit, we usually blame our wife. But I don't have that option this week because my wife is still in Philadelphia helping my folks with my little brother's wedding reception. The next thing is, a lot of people ask me, you talked about little Tort, but what happened to baby Tort, you know? Well, baby Tort is doing fine, there he is, and just so people who haven't seen baby Tort, this is how big he is. So this is a G.I. Joe action figure, and, you know, that's how big he is. He's doing well, so let's put him down and run around the house. All right, so this episode, we're not going to be talking about comics so much. Well, sort of. We're actually going to be looking at some action figures I picked up that you may want to add to your collection. I think the first one I want to talk about, and my regulars can attest to this, I've been a big Elvira fan for the longest times. I mean, there's two good reasons, right? Actually, I have to laugh when I do that. But anyway, you know, I always loved her humor. I like that she never took herself serious. It was just innocent and just stupid. Like, you know, that's what I loved about Elvira. You just can't help but laugh, you know, and that's why I always loved Elvira. And when we covered the Elvira Mistress of the Dark comic, the Shape of Elvira, Elvira meets Vincent Price, and now there's a new series that's currently ongoing called Elvira in Horrorland. I definitely recommend because Elvira jumps into all these iconic horror movies and just gets in a shitload of trouble. But writer David Avallone, who was a guest of ours a couple years ago and who is absolutely awesome, and I think one of the most underappreciated writers currently in the modern comic scene, he just captures Elvira to the T. He's amazing, and he's worked with Kevin Eastman, and I just think he's amazing. So I highly recommend checking out Elvira's comic series because, you know, that's the best way you're going to enjoy Elvira currently. And she's been working hand in hand, signing off on everything. So it's not like, you know, she just gave her name to it and left it alone. She's actively involved in it as well. So that's very nice. And I know when I covered her comics, I got a thank you in the form of, let me show you this. Elvira sent me her autograph, thanking me for giving her comics a thumbs up. And she gives a lot more than thumbs up, right? I'm just kidding. But I just thought it was kind of cool. Let me put that back there. All right, so we're going to look at her NECA action figure. Now, what's interesting is I've never had NECA figures before. I've seen them on other people's channels. I know they specialize in horror titles, and I know some people have had mixed feelings concerning these NECA toys. But let's be honest, when it comes to Elvira, and this is celebrating her 40 years in show business, there has been not that many Elvira figures that have been available to the mainstream or available in period. So the fact that this is available, I was really excited, and I'm glad to finally have one. A few stores locally here in Central Florida, like our sponsor, Famous Faces, had a few, and they sold out. And I know there's another place in Vero called Jackal's basement, and they sold out as well. So to finally get one of these was just wonderful. I was so happy to finally get one. So we're going to do a deep dive and open this up and take a look at it, because I'm not keeping this in the box. I want this out to display with my Elvira autograph and her comic books. I think that'll be kind of cool. But I also wanted to showcase something else. All right, so before I do the Elvira unboxing, I thought I'd talk about, I recently got the HasbroPulse G.I. Joe O-Ring 2-pack that just came in the other day. Now I'm going to recommend going to Timmer over at Half the Battle. He does an excellent unboxing of this. I'm not going to actually open mine out of the card because I already have Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I was just going to leave them in the packaging. I know usually I open my figures, but for these I decided to keep them just because I do already have the originals out, you know, in my collection back there. So I thought for these new ones, I just keep them in the packaging. So basically, we're looking at the Cobra Officer and the Cobra Trooper. Now, what's interesting, as Timmer will dissect and break down, is these are not carbon copies of the originals. Whoop, fumble. Anyway, so like I was showing with Little Tort, this is the 1982 straight arm. Now, if you notice how I'm holding it, is because I don't want to touch the silver paint on the Cobra Officer, because they're notorious for just wiping off. And I'm talking about even the 1986 Crimson Guard, anything with silver paint applications is just, and G.I. Joe, as soon as you put your hand on it, it'll just smear right off. So that's why I'm kind of holding this one like this. The other thing is, if you notice, this one has no weapons or anything on it because the plastic is so brittle that I don't even, like, even just putting the peg stand on this guy was like very gingerly. So all my straight arm from the 82 line up there on display don't have the weapons on it, just because I'm afraid that they'll break. So I was showing that the difference is, you'll see that the color, if you see like the Officer, the newer one, is kind of a little bit more lighter, as the original vintage one from 82 is a little bit darker. Also, the features of the face and stuff, they used it kind of like a similar but different sculpt. And I explained to some people on social media that the reason for that is because when they sent some of the molds over to Fun School India, they lost them. So you have to assume that what they did is use 3D printing and scanning to recreate those molds in order to make these figures. So these figures are essentially from scratch. They're not the old molds being reused to cast and make these new figures. This is all brand new, and I think that's a good thing. I know for collectors and stuff like that, to distinguish between, even though, like, you know, there's a date stamp, and, you know, when you see the back, you know, this was made in what, Vietnam? Yeah, this is made in Vietnam, where the original one is made in Hong Kong. Yeah, the original is Hong Kong, and I think Taiwan is for some of them, but for an 83. But that's another indication. These are all made in Vietnam. The same thing with the Cobra Trooper. It's like, you know, it's not the carbon copy. It's a little bit different, and I thought that was intriguing. So those are two other new things I was able to pick up. And lastly, I don't know why this was like an impulse purchase, but the Imperial Death Trooper. Now, this is from the iconic scene of Luke Skywalker returning at the season finale of The Mandalorian. So here's the thing with Hasbro and HasbroPulse. Recently, we just saw the Hasbro classified HISSTANK being backed immediately. Now, so far, G.I. Joe is 2 for 2 being backed, and Star Wars is struggling. Like it's because Star Wars is so oversaturated and all over the place, And I think Hasbro needs to focus in on its own IP, and that's G.I. Joe. Develop it, present it to a young audience, because there is a demand for a series that focuses on diversity. And I think that's where G.I. Joe could make an impact and actually be relevant. But instead, they're throwing all this, they're betting on the wrong horse. And I know I picked this up. I like it, but at the same time, Star Wars, it's worthless, you know, because it's so abundant. Anyway, that's my 2 cents about that. So let's dive into Elvira and take a closer look at this amazing NECA action figure. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look at the packaging here. Iconic Elvira. I mean, I've seen this on so many things of Elvira. And of course, this, another iconic image of Elvira. The one thing about, like, you know, covering her comics is, what's awesome is I've been collecting the photo variants. So it's basically a collection of her 40 years and all the photos. I know there's a photo book that she, I think, released in 2020 or 2019. But essentially collecting those comics is just getting those images. And we see what's all included in this packaging. Basically stock photos. So I think it comes with her dagger. It comes with that skeleton and another head sculpt. So let's open this bad boy up and get a closer look. So just before I take everything, this is everything out of the box. And like I said, it included her thing, a cup, her dagger, that skull, the other extra face sculpt. I think it has a figure stand. Again, this is my first NECA toy, so I have no experience with this line at all. Also, I haven't done toy stuff in a long time, so bear with me, but I think this will be fun. So, whatever, you know? All right, so just to show you, this is everything out of the box. You know, we have her additional head sculpt, like I mentioned, her figure stand, that crazy skull, her iconic dagger, and then some type of potion that she has. So with that, let's assemble her and put her together and see the final product. You know, what's interesting is when I opened this figure, I couldn't help but the overwhelming plasticky smell that came from this figure. But, you know, all in all, you know, for what it's going to be, I think they did a great job. I like what they did with her. You know, she wears black stockings, so I kind of like the fact that if you see her leg, like they kind of like colored it, kind of like that sheer type of look that black nylons give to it. But all in all, you know, to finally, and I like the little details that they have. It's kind of feels like, you know, I'm looking at comparing it with the, just for example, like the Baroness figure, like next to it. You know, you could tell that this is made for an adult collector, and it's not going to be played with. Not that I'm saying classifieds are this, you know, for children either, because they're not, you know. I mean, they could be, but it just so happens that not many kids are interested in classifieds. But all in all, like, you know, it is a pretty cool figure. Oh, let me move the Baroness. The face sculpt, again, is what I really enjoy. And I remember, like, those earlier figures I mentioned, that's one of the drawbacks, is the face sculpts were horrendous on Elvira. And I could see why she kind of held out authorizing action figures, is because they never did her justice. Like, you know, but for the first time, they're able to get a action figure that's close to her likeness. Now, I don't know much about, like, swapping heads. I'm not going to do that. Well, what the hell? Let's give it a try. On second thought, I'm not going to give it a try. I'm just, like, I know these things are delicate. That's why, you know, I'm going to, and me being not savvy in the kit bash or whatever action for customizing. That's not my forte. I'm going to leave well enough alone. I mean, plus I'm going to keep her with this head sculpt on anyway. But it's just there's good bending on the elbows. It said it had additional hand sculpt on the box. I just see these two set of hands that came with it. But all in all, I think I'm going to recommend this action figure. I think if you're an Elvira fan and, you know, this is, you know, the best action figure so far of the icon known as the Mistress of the Dark. So I would highly recommend this. I'm so glad I picked this up. Excuse me. And, yeah, so basically that's it for this episode. And I'm really happy to finally have this action figure and been waiting a long time for a proper Elvira figure. All right, so I think I'm gonna end up by, oh, the one thing I want to note that I did struggle putting things in her hands. So I don't know if that's, you know, again, I know from a lot of other people, they've had a lot of issues with these NECA toys. So I'm not going to push the boundaries with all that stuff. I'm just, unless, you know, maybe down the road I'll play with it a little bit more and figure it out. But again, I'm going to end by saying, like, I give this 2 thumbs up. You know, there's not many Elvira figures, and you might as well get this one because, you know, at the price point that it is definitely worthwhile. And it's beautiful. I think it's a very elegant action figure. Great for displaying. I know I'm going to have this with, you know, you see my collection in the background. So this is going to be a wonderful addition to that. And I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, this is Shabu RU. Thanks for watching this mini side video. Have a wonderful July 4th weekend. And I'll see you in the next comic episode of Codename Nutuvira 2. Have a good one.